inches even. So the idea that everyone on the planet could be identified, or even that the entire planet itself could be identified as a unit, was actually pretty far-fetched 2,000 years ago. Nowadays, we know that we can identify everyone on the planet. We can watch every piece of the planet from satellites in space. And in fact, we are on the brink of having made contact with or identified every person on the planet. This month's National Geographic, this is August of 2003, had a cover called The Hidden Tribes of the Amazon. And in The Hidden Tribes of the Amazon, in that article, it was explained that only 17 uncontacted tribes are left in the Brazilian Amazon. I believe the number they gave was they thought there was actually a pocket of 1,350 people in a certain part there, and that was one of the biggest uncontacted pockets of humanity left on the globe. And in fact, the article was a bit ironic because it's about an explorer whose stated goal is to keep these people uncontacted. And yet, as you read the article and look at the pictures, he actually goes into their village. They all run away and scatter, and then they try on their clothing and they mess around with their stuff. It's really quite a strange article that someone who wants to keep these people uncontacted is doing that by, in a way, contacting them. But in any event, it is now possible to have identified everyone on the planet, and in just a few short years, we will have done so. There will be no more people on the planet that have been uncontacted by modern technological society. So that's the first piece, everyone on the planet. The second piece here, small and great. Now let's talk about identifying everyone on the planet and linking them up with our technological society. Here in the United States, we all have telephones, cell phones, televisions, cable TV, laptops, computers. We're hooked into the modern digital world. But there are many parts of the planet that are not hooked up to that modern digital world. They don't have the wiring, they don't have the infrastructure, they don't have the method of participating in a modern system of commerce where you would scan your credit card or your loyalty card and use a number to make a purchase. Well, that's changed. There are companies out there. This particular company is called Gilat. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. This picture here is of a hut in the middle of Africa with a satellite dish out in front of it. And Gilat is the company that says Gilat Satellite Networks has been empowering Africa. The principle is simple. Wherever there is a patch of open sky, an exhaustless commodity in Africa, there is a clear pathway for seamless, state-of-the-art telephony and internet connectivity. This is to meet the communications challenge of Africa, where thousands of rural communities lack terrestrial infrastructure or use unreliable, overloaded, or outdated landlines. So not only do you need to identify everyone down to the last tribe in the Amazon in order for this prophecy to become a reality, but you need to be able to get those people linked into a numbering system whereby purchases can be recorded with numbers. That's now become a reality. You can now go to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro or the top of Mount Fuji. You can now go into the deepest jungles of Africa or the Amazon, and you can, if you can find a clear patch of sky, you can hook up a satellite system to link those individuals, those indigenous people, into the computerized buying and selling network. Here's two other companies doing the same thing. A company called Infosat. Their news release said Infosat and Presidia team up to bring point-of-sale capabilities to remote businesses. So what's driving these satellites to go to these remote locations is the idea of being able to buy and sell in those remote locations using digital currency as opposed to local currency. Inmarsat is one other company. Inmarsat satellites provide coverage to 98% of the planet with access to international dial-up, telephone, fax, and data networks. And by the way, when you go, in fact, just last year, I was at an apple orchard, a heritage heirloom apple orchard, where they have apples back from the time of Thomas Jefferson. And it's an incredible place, and it's very much in the middle of nowhere in New Hampshire. But if you go into their little gift shop, the little sort of rustic with the sawdust on the floor, the building that's probably 100 years old, there on the worn wooden counter is a brand new, gleaming, state-of-the-art credit card swipe machine. The same is probably true of the huts in Africa at this point. Rich and poor. Rich nations have access to this technology, the numbered system technology of participating in digital commerce. But what about poor countries? This is also a Gilat image where they've actually taken a telephone, which is the basis of the credit card swipe unit, and they've hooked it up again outside of a hut in Africa. So the technology is now spread across the globe to the point where it is now technically feasible to identify everyone and to link everyone using satellite technology. Now, it's not just the satellite technology, but it's also the internet and the connectivity that the internet provides. The internet is nothing more than a way of transmitting digital or numerical information over distances and linking it up and putting things in databases that can travel at high speeds back and forth. You hook that up with a satellite, and you've got a web as a good image. You've got a web circling the Earth, a network around the globe, whereby all of this information can move around. Without that, it would not be possible, at least not through any way I can envision, to create a system where everyone had to have a number to buy or sell. Free and bond. One of the things that we will be talking about in this hour is a technology called radio frequency identification, which is a way of using radio waves to transmit information about individuals, products, items, money, any physical item on the planet, and transmit that at a distance to where it can be picked up and read. These particular images come from a company called TSI, which provides services, among other things, to correctional institutions or prisons. And one of the things that they have created are monitoring devices that actually transmit digital information about individuals, about where they go and what they do. And we'll be talking a little bit more about this. I want you to keep this image in your mind about free and bond, or free and slave, bond being another word for slave or imprisoned. All right. So the first part was he forced everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark on his right hand. Now, this has been interpreted through this book and countless others in a whole variety of different ways. Everything from it may be a symbolic mark or a spiritual mark to it may be an actual brand. I know when the barcodes came out in the 1970s, a lot of people said, well, maybe it'll actually be a barcode. That would be one way of numbering human beings. The mark has really been a big question mark of what the mark on someone's right hand might be. I'm going to be providing a couple hypotheses for what that might be. But let me first say that before you get to someone's right hand, you might want to get to their wrist. And there are payment technologies out there today that enable buying and selling through something on your wrist. Okay. Have you heard of the mobile speed pass? The mobile speed pass is a handheld device, goes on your keychain. It transmits using radio waves a number associated with you through the air, which is picked up by the either the cash register in the mobile convenience store or by the gas pump. And by pushing that little button, you can transmit the information, and you can make your payment without ever taking out your wallet, your credit card, or your cash. Well, Mobile has teamed up with Timex to put this tiny payment device that can beam over a distance in a wristwatch. And in fact, in 1999, when I first started thinking about the mark of the beast and how numerical payment systems, what would have to happen to numerical payment systems using credit cards in order to evolve into the mark of the beast, one of the things that I realized is that you probably, if you told people, gee, we'd like you to implant your credit card in your right hand, people might say no. But what if you told people, gee, you know, that credit card, you could lose it, it could fall out of your wallet, somebody could hold you up. Why don't you strap it on your wrist? It'll be a little more secure. It won't fall off. People can't just come along and grab it. And you know what? People are already accustomed to wearing wristwatches. So what an easy way to make that transition. And in fact, one of the things that I would recommend everyone do as you think about prophecy is create a couple of guideposts for yourself. For me, at the age of 8, my guidepost was if it became necessary to have a number to buy and sell groceries, then I would pull out my Bible and take it seriously. You may want to make one of your own. What seems outlandish? Maybe an implant in your hand? Well, in 1999, when I first started thinking about this technology did not exist. In fact, I'd never heard of the mobile speed pass, and certainly not of a speed pass-enabled Timex watch. But what I did do was I actually printed out a contract. And my idea at the time was I was going to distribute this to everybody, and I would say, in the unlikely event that there ever is a number required to buy or sell, and someone wants to put that in my hand with a mark, I won't take it. And I figured, you know, at that early stage in 1999, nobody, I mean, who wouldn't sign that? I mean, that's never going to happen, right? And if it did happen, it would be a pretty good indication that maybe the stuff in this Bible was true. Well, in looking at that signpost myself, I said, well, what would it take for me to say, oh my gosh, we're really getting there? And I came up with the idea of the watch, because I knew that would have to be one of the precursors to putting it in your hand. We'd be putting it on a watch. And when I found out about this a couple months ago, really the hair stood up on the back of my neck. I said, okay,